pull out your bins, make sure you've recycled the appropriate materials and contact your local council for heavy goods, because it's time to take out the trash once again on another edition of the Union Smack podcast. Another week has passed, another review awaits, and while Travis wrestles alligators down in Louisiana, our quest to enjoy every in your house rolls on, my friends. I am of course your host without the most, the Maniac Matt, back with another dose of retro wrestling goodness. Christ, I'm desperate for some NXT UK. And this week we delve into In Your House 6, Rage in the Cage. All for you lovely, slightly warped people. And fuck me, has it been warm this week. As I sit here, reading my notes, ready to do the intro, ready to tell you where you can find me as per usual and all that good stuff, the sweat is absolutely pouring off me, and I'm sure some of you didn't want or need to know that. But the weather here in the UK has been sweltering. I've never known a summer like it. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can find me, as always, on Twitter at ThePerfectTenant, unionsmack.bigcartel.com for all your merchandise from every one of Travis's shows, and of course lulu.com, where you can purchase my first book, The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley. And next month, NXT UK Year 1. It'll probably be my final book. I have other plans going into 2021 and the end of this year, but we'll see how that goes. But do pick up a copy of both. I promise you will not be disappointed. So, with me sitting here sweating through anything and everything I might not have on, giggly, let's get straight into it. In Your House 6, Rage in the Cage. We are on February the 19th, 1996, and we are live from the Louisville Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky. Fresh off of the Royal Rumble, which began the road to WrestleMania 12, of course. Every Royal Rumble begins every road to WrestleMania now. And this was when Shawn Michaels won the Royal Rumble match and Diesel cost The Undertaker the WWF Championship in the main event. That is very important to remember for later on. The dark match of In Your House 6 was Jake Roberts defeating Tatanka. And this was the beginning of the end for Tatanka in WWF. You know, after his heel turn on Lex Luger at SummerSlam 1994 and him joining the $1 Million Corporation, he sort of petered out. His role diminished greatly as a heel, actually. And he became a two-bit player in the $1 Million Corporation. Joining Ted DiBiase, I think it lessened him. And following this, he would lose to The Undertaker the next night on Raw. And then he would fall to Ahmed Johnson in a steel cage dark match. On the February the 24th WWF Superstars. He would then go on to team with the 1-2-3 Kid in a losing effort to Razor Ramon and Savio Vega in the WWF Tag Team Championship Tournament quarterfinals on the March the 9th WWF Superstars. You can tell it's hot here. I can hardly speak. I'm probably going to have to keep stopping this recording to drink, not that you'll notice any different. But, dear God, the heat is actually affecting my speech. It's lucky I don't like people, isn't it? So I don't have to talk to them much. After this, Tatanka had a series of house show losses to Ahmed Johnson throughout March 96, and his final television appearance was on March the 18th, 1996, when he lost to Bret Hart on Monday Night Raw. It was best that Tatanka left the WWF after this. He went on to USWA, I think, and a few other smaller startup companies, etc. But after 94, after he turned heel, that was pretty much it for him. We could go back all the way to 1993 and say when his undefeated streak ended at the hands of Ludwig Borger. That was the end of Tatanka, because the whole mystery around him, really, the whole hype and interest was, when will he lose? Because when he came into the WWF in 1992, God, it seems so long ago now, then, you know, win, and that was Tatanka. But after he'd lost, after Ludwig Borger defeated him, then all the mystery and the hype was stripped away, and they didn't know what else to do with him. Plus, the company was going in a different direction. It was a new age, the new generation. So Tatanka had no part in it, really. What were you going to do with him? What, main event against Shawn Michaels? No. Main event against Stone Cold Steve Austin? No. So Tatanka, I think, looking back on it, was the last of the old guard, if you like. And I'm sure Travis would agree with me. In Your House 6 began properly with the beautiful Sunny on a beach on her knees. And there's a joke there, but I'll leave it alone. In the water in such a sexy pose. In fact, there is a picture on the screen right now for all you teenage boys. And she looks so hot in her little bikini. And her bikini bottoms, they're so tight as well. Like, they really hug. And you can read her lips in them, if you know what I mean. In fact, if Sunny spread her legs any more in this piece, then she would split down the middle. I shit you not. Chris Candido and Shawn Michaels and all the other men, of which there are way too many to count, were very, very lucky men indeed. Sunny says that the following material is too hot for some and parental guidance is advised. I think parental guidance is advised just to look at this opening shot because, Jesus Christ, teenager's wet dream. I know she was mine. And I'm sure this was recorded, on a photo shoot they did for WWF Magazine shortly before In Your House 6. I remember vividly as a young boy, as I'm sure all the young boys around 1996 remember, this was a poster in WWF Magazine not too long after this event. I had all the Sunny posters. Not that they'd be much good to anyone now. Oh, Christ. So, this was definitely a poster. I had it on my wall. I studied it. Let's move on. The video package to introduce the event and hype the main event is, as usual, very well done. It is narrated, as always, again by Todd Pettingill, and he questions what emotions beat in the heart of a champion, and we see highlights of Bret Hart, of Diesel, before the package turns to The Undertaker and questions what his role would be tonight after Diesel cost him the WWF Championship at the Royal Rumble. It's not just very well done because it's narrated and it's like, this is Bret Hart, this is Diesel, champion challenger, steel cage, that's your main event. That's fine. But it's very well done because it sets up The Undertaker as well in this little three-way. So you're almost expecting The Undertaker to have a role, which adds to the mystery of the main event, if you like. It's a lovely, lovely piece. As usual, Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler are on commentary. More on them later. And the night begins with Razor Ramon versus the 1-2-3 Kid in the now infamous Cry Baby match. The rules here are simple. Of course they are, it's In Your House. The loser of the bout would wear a diaper and have a bottle stuffed in his mouth. Not that Scott Hall would have minded ending the evening on his back with a bottle in his mouth. That was his usual night. We all know that now. The stories are infamous. This is the blow-off to their never-ending rivalry, which began in the summer of 1995. And don't forget, this is February of 1996. And to hammer home the bad blood between both men, just see my In Your House 5 review from last week, because I think I covered most of it there. We were shown the 1-2-3 Kid, actually, costing Razor Ramon the WWF Intercontinental Championship at the Royal Rumble. And, looking back on the Royal Rumble, it was a night of screwy finishes. The Intercontinental title match, the WWF Championship match, it was just very uncreative. But then again, we were coming off 1995, the most uncreative year in WWF history, debatably. The video package then switches to WWF Superstars 2 weeks ago, where the 1-2-3 Kid beat up Razor Ramon with a baby stroller, or pram if you're in England and pronouncing it correctly. Before we're taken to this past weekend and the 1-2-3 Kid hitting Razor Ramon with a guitar during his match with Jeff Jarrett. I mean, at least they bothered to fully recap the feud. Though I do not even remember them showing the Kid actually turning on Razor, though that could have been done at Survivor Series, because like I said in my In Your House 5 review, The Kid turned on Razor like 2 weeks before the Survivor Series, so I'm imagining, though I haven't seen Survivor Series 1995 for some years now, the video package was shown during the event. The 123 Kid enters with Ted DiBiase and a stroller in tow, and in the stroller, I'm going to say pram, because we don't call it a stroller over here, we call it a pram or a pushchair. In the pram was a Razor Ramon bear, which was available from WWF Store, coincidentally, a nice little plug there. Match begins, not too much fire or hatred, surprisingly, but with a you slap me, I slap you exchange, and then Razor really turns it up. He steps it up a notch and made it count, really, with a lovely, brutal as well, clothesline over the top rope. It's at this point that you realise Jerry Lawler is and will continue to have a ball with the ugly baby jokes at Scott Hall's expense, and they're relentless. But luckily, the majority are funny, and it's a nice distraction from Vince McMahon, who is once again appalling on commentary. 123 Kid fights back with some nifty footwork as a nice fall-away slam by Razor Ramon, and the match turns in the Kid's favour when Ted DiBiase gives him some baby powder, and he blinds Razor Ramon with the powder. I'm sorry, that was me just wiping my top lip. It is that hot here. There's a lovely missile drop kick by the 123 Kid, and so a standing drop kick actually, which Sean Waltman gets a 180-degree turn on, and he flips in midair while he's delivering the kick. It's a thing of beauty to behold. The Kid applies a long sleeper hold to Razor, and I shit you not, this match was 12 minutes long, and this sleeper hold must have been at least 3 minutes of that 12. Weirdly, it wasn't dull. Scott Hall sold it perfectly. Of course he did. It was his best friend. He was always going to make him look as good as he could. But you'd expect a 3-minute sleeper hold in the middle of the ring to be, Christ, piss break. But it really wasn't. I don't know how they pulled that off, but it was very, very well done. Once Razor broke out of the sleeper hold by crushing the Kid on the top rope, that signalled the beginning of the end. Razor overturned a body press for a near fall, hit a fall-away slam from the second rope, which looks great, and then Ted DiBiase slid in the baby powder and distracted the referee. But Razor Ramon foiled the plan, kicked the baby powder back in the 123 Kid's face, and hit him with 2 Razor's Edges for the victory. He did initially cover him after the first Razor's Edge, but then pulled him up and delivered a second to put the full stop on the feud. And just as you'd expect, as the rules dictated, in fact, Razor put the bottle in the 123 Kid's mouth, put on his diaper / nappy if you're in America, and covered him with baby powder. There was an amusing moment, actually, after this. If you've not seen it, do watch this match. It's a decent match. 123 Kid wakes up and thinks he's won, even though Razor Ramon's music is still playing. And when he realises he's wearing a diaper, he cries and throws a tantrum, which he obviously learnt from Shawn Michaels backstage. It's a very good, if unspectacular match. That's the bare bones of it. It thankfully puts an end to this hideously long story, and 123 Kid would move on to pastures new, feud and storyline wise, by In Your House 7. But the thing is with the 123 Kid, personally, and you might disagree with this, but I never felt that the 123 Kid really went anywhere after this, apart from WCW, obviously. But what I mean by that is that he never really changed his gimmick, even when he turned heel. He was still doing the same moves, still wearing the same attire. He still had the 123 Kid name, which was a babyface name. Personally, he needed an overhaul for the character to work. And not just that, but to work, the heel style that he was doing at the time. And he never got that until X-Pac came along. Even Six in WCW was very much anchored in the 123 Kid image. So I think after he joined the $1 Million Corporation, there should have been something, whether it was a change of gear, a change of name just to Kid or The Kid. But the 123 Kid gimmick and character, I think, killed the heel run. For me, Travis and everybody else listening to this might disagree. If you do, pop it in the comments below. I will say this is the best Razor Ramon has looked at In Your House, and indeed on WWF pay-per-view actually, since about SummerSlam 1995, and it was because he's his good friend and he tried extra hard to get him over, etc, etc. Had he done this and tried this hard for Dean Douglas, then history may have been different. Raymond Rougeau and, sadly, a closed Sunny were shown backstage in the Superstar Hotline Room, or the Superstar Line Room, whichever you prefer to call it, and Sunny says that she'll ask Razor Ramon what he's doing later. Yes, I bet she will. We're then shown footage of what occurred during the free-for-all when Jake the Snake Roberts, who, I have to say, returned at the 1996 Royal Rumble, for those thinking, well, why hasn't he been mentioned on the previous In Your Houses? Jake brought in his python to the room and scared Sunny, and I have to say that must be the first time that Tammy Sitch has ever ran away from something so thick and slimy. And I've probably just painted the picture in my own head there that I didn't need. But now, you can live with it. Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Duke the Dumpster Droese was up next, and don't sigh, I can hear it in the back there. This was actually pretty good. It was a different Hunter Hearst Helmsley than we saw at In Your House 5. This was the Hunter Hearst Helmsley who was going through a gimmick of coming out with a different female valet each week. And that would eventually lead him to coming out with Sable at WrestleMania 12 and feuding with Mark Moreau over Sable in the post-Mania season, which included the WWF Intercontinental Championship later down the line. I don't know this woman's name. She's no one important. She didn't go on to become anything or anyone that I'm aware of. So next we were taken to Todd Pettengill and Duke Droese, who was backstage and he was pissed off. This was short-haired Duke Droese, as we'll find out why in just a minute. He tells Hunter that there's nowhere left to run and that he's going to take him out like yesterday's garbage, and then we're shown clips of what led both men to In Your House, and this time it's 3 weeks ago on WWF Superstars. Hunter attacked Droese in the ring, assaulted him with his garbage can, and cut his hair. The pair also fought in the free-for-all, actually, of the Royal Rumble, and the winner got, I think it was the number 30 spot, and Duke Droese won that by disqualification. He was limited in the ring, but to his credit, Droese goes straight at it with the punches. He's annoyed. Hair toss out of the corner, which Triple H sells well. In fact, Hunter sells everything with panache to begin with, and just as he should. And it's all very entertaining until Triple H gets the advantage with the backdrop over the top rope. He whips Droese into the steel steps, and it sounds sick as he connects, but that's as far as the entertainment factor in this match actually goes. The match begins to decline from here, in actual fact, in pace, in interest, which loses the audience, but Hunter does keep it together as a contest, at least. Droese comes back into it, hits the trash compactor, but doesn't cover Hunter, and instead he fetches his garbage can, because you do that, if your foe is at your mercy, he's cut your hair, he's pissed you off all this time, you've got him where you want him, and instead of just beating him, just go and get your trash can. Now, I sound angry, I get that. But in reality, and, logically, it did actually make sense. He didn't just want to beat him, he wanted to get revenge on him, he wanted to hurt him, but still, it's In Your House, it's Duke Droese. No one really cared whether he got revenge or not. It would bite him in the backside, however, because as the referee disarmed Duke Droese, Hunter took the garbage can lid and cracked him across the head with it for the victory. Now, what was odd about this was the referee saw the lid bounce off the top rope, but chose to ignore it. Some 1995 booking coming into effect there, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't all gone just yet. This match isn't bad, okay? It's just not great either. It's solid for the most part. Duke Droese doesn't embarrass himself. Hunter doesn't cover himself in glory either much, but it is what it is. It falls apart in the middle a little bit when Hunter is in control, But what do you expect from two lower card talents? One who was very limited in what he could do, and the other who was just finding his feet and getting really into the championship mid card picture. We get an advert for the WWF store, which is now trying to flog us sweatshirts of The Undertaker, Bret Hart, Diesel, and Shawn Michaels. To be fair, they're quite nice shirts. I wouldn't mind them myself. But adverts like this in the middle of a pay-per-view made it feel like an episode of Superstars, if I'm being completely honest with you. We're then given a video package to recap Yokozuna leaving Camp Cornette on a recent episode of WWF Superstars and the incident which tipped him over the edge. Now, this happened in a tag team match, which saw Yokozuna and the British Bulldog battle Diesel and Shawn Michaels. The British Bulldog missed a leg drop on Shawn and hit Yokozuna. This caused Yokozuna to be hit with the Sweet Chin Music and then counted out. After the match, Yokozuna beat up Jim Cornette, thus turning babyface, and was set upon by the British Bulldog and Owen Hart. Now, Doc Hendricks, and this is priceless, this next bit. Honestly, this is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Doc Hendricks is backstage, and he says that for 3 years, Jim Cornette forbid Yokozuna to speak for himself. Now, I'll stop there because somebody got this wrong and got it wrong really badly. Jim Cornette was originally brought in to serve as Yokozuna's American spokesperson when he was WWF champion. This was so the company could keep the belief alive that he was a Japanese monster, and because Mr. Fuji wasn't all that great on the microphone and didn't speak a whole lot of English either. But then we come to this interview. Yokozuna enters shot and speaks in a perfect American accent. And can you see that? Can you? That's kayfabe flying out of the window. He says that for 3 years he stood next to Jim Cornette while he took all the glory and all the money. He says that Owen Hart was only relevant when he was with him, and the Bulldog's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, obviously, the same person who forgot Yokozuna was meant to be Japanese also forgot that Owen Hart was relevant a long time before his tag team with Yokozuna. Next, that leads into Yokozuna versus the British Bulldog. Oh dear, where do I start with this one? The first thing that made me laugh, I have to tell you this, was that after speaking in an American accent and killing off any belief that he was at all Japanese, Yokozuna comes to the ring to his old Japanese music in his traditional Japanese robe, and for fuck's sake, if you're going to go through this, if you're going to expose him to be American / Samoan all along, then ditch the music and ditch the robe and give him something else. Rebrand him if you have to. And I know he wouldn't be there for too much longer. He'd be gone after the Survivor Series. I'm doing a Bret Hart now. Again, the Survivor Series. He'd be gone after the Survivor Series, but still, make the effort, because now you've exposed him as a fraud. The whole Japanese thing has no effect whatsoever. Still, as for the match itself, Yokozuna comes out of the gate with punches and a slam. The British Bulldog tries to put him down with clotheslines and a choke on the ropes, but there's so much fucking fat and blubber under his chin that there's no hope of it working whatsoever. Jim Cornette hits Yokozuna in the throat with his racket, not that he could find it. Yokozuna goes to the banzai drop, but Jim Cornette pulls the British Bulldog from the ring and the match spills to the arena floor. And this is where the Bulldog gets the advantage. He's leant against the ropes, Yokozuna charging in, and the British Bulldog moves out the way and Yoko hits the ring post. From here on out, it's a very simple punch, clothesline, axe handle affair, because Yokozuna can't do much more in 1996. And there's absolutely nothing Davey Boy can do with him either. There's no hope of him getting a good match out of a 1996 Yokozuna. Yoko does a nice belly-to-belly and Samoan drop, which takes an age to execute, the belly-to-belly. Bulldog was stood there for about 6 seconds, just looking awkwardly into the audience as Yokozuna really got a grip and readied himself to do the move. In the end, Jim Cornette gets in, hits Yokozuna with the racket, causes the disqualification, but that isn't the end of it, unfortunately. The ending is shit, okay? I will say that before we move on to what happened after the match. But it was necessary because the original plan was Yokozuna versus Vader at WrestleMania 12, and Davey Boy was to go on and challenge the WWF champion after WrestleMania, etc. So no one could really lose clean if they wanted people to believe, what they were going to do with both of them next. So after the match, Yokozuna stalks Jim Cornette, who sells the fear wonderfully, short of pissing his pants. This is a great sell job, and then he's saved by Vader, who for some reason has his leather jacket on over the top of his ring gear, and he looks really, really odd. You know that type of odd when you see a baby in ripped jeans. It's that type of odd. Vader and the Bulldog handcuff Yokozuna to the ropes and beat him up what seems like forever. This goes on and on and on until the referees and road agents get in to break it up. Goldust and Marlena are backstage in the America Online room, and most of what Goldust says here is inaudible. You can't hear a fucking word. What we do catch, though, is him saying that he'll defend his Intercontinental Championship against Razor Ramon the next night on Raw. A video package airs of Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart, the feud they have going on, and is narrated, as always, by Todd Pettingill. We see Shawn collapsing after the Enzuigiri on Raw and vacating the WWF Intercontinental Championship to Dean Douglas after he was beaten up by those servicemen. If you didn't listen to the In Your House 4 review that I did a couple of weeks back, then do go and check it out because I have the whole story on what happened to Shawn Michaels. The entire fight with the servicemen outside the bar. I say fight. Shawn Michaels didn't do much fighting, more heavy bleeding. But I have the whole tale. If you want to listen to it, then just go and check out the In Your House 4 review. It's the one with Goldust and Marlena on the thumbnail. The video switches to doctors advising Shawn Michaels to retire, Owen Hart taking credit for the injury, and Shawn Michaels winning the Royal Rumble. So it's very much a comeback video, charting Shawn Michaels' rise back through adversity and injury and, quote-unquote tragedy, etc. The final piece we see is Shawn saying that Owens annoyed him so much that he would put his WrestleMania title shot on the line to shut him up. I mean, I don't know about you, it's not much of a motive or, a reason to potentially give away the most important thing in your career, but it's 96, it is what it is. After we've been through that hideous 95, we'll take it. Todd Pettingill is backstage as Owen Hart makes his way to the ring, and his guest is, of course, Shawn Michaels. He asks Shawn if there's ever been a bigger match for him than the one that's about to happen. Probing questions there, Todd. Shawn says that this is the biggest match of his life because if he loses, he doesn't get to fulfill his destiny. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, this was the time period when we'd hear nothing other than about that fucking boyhood dream heading into WrestleMania 12. And I don't know what you thought of it when you were a kid, but I was 10 years old, 9 coming up to 10 during this period in wrestling history. And even I remember watching this weekly Raw, Superstars, Wrestling Challenge even, I think was still on. It might have finished by then. But whatever weekly programming we could get of the WWF in the UK, and just hearing boyhood dream come true. I've dreamt of this since I was a boy. Blah, blah, blah. Dream, bollocks, piss off. It got very boring. And am I surprised people turned on Shawn Michaels because they really hammered this home? Not really. No. Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart with the WrestleMania 12 WWF Championship match opportunity on the line. Shawn Michaels, this entrance, okay, epitomises Shawn Michaels in 1996 and how Shawn Michaels saw himself in 1996, because he doesn't just come down the aisle. Shawn Michaels dances on top of the In Your House set and then swings down like a really shit Tarzan with a rope onto the aisle. What a flashy little bastard. But, he was Shawn Michaels. The match, it begins before the bell, actually, as Shawn sends Owen to the outside while his music is still playing, because, he's Shawn Michaels. That he didn't come ready for a fight and took an age to strip in the ring when there was a man he needed to get even with for trying to end his career just spoke volumes about, how much he loved that spotlight in 1996. I mean, come on, you've got a man there who kicked you full force in the head, supposedly put you out of action, supposedly almost ended your career, because after that the doctors told you that you had post-concussion, syndrome, and you might have to just step away completely. And what do? You stand and dance in the ring at him. Nice one, Shawn. There is a nice moment at the beginning of this match when it begins properly, where Shawn slides through Owen's legs and straight out of the ring to celebrate with the fans. Owen then does the same, but nobody wants to celebrate with him. I love that bit. Shawn with a nice diving crossbody from the top rope to the arena floor. Both men kip up. I can't say that, and I've got all my teeth. Both men kip up following a lovely series of moves, reversals, and then Owen takes control with a lovely belly-to-belly off of a rope rebound. Shawn counters a sharpshooter attempt. Owen Hart hits a spinning heel kick which dazzles Shawn, and then they begin to play off the story of his post-concussion syndrome and fragile head. Not so fragile when he's in a soma coma, but for here, he's got a fragile head. Owen takes advantage of the injury. He catches Shawn in a power slam as he comes off the apron. That looked like it was brutal on the back. And you notice that Owen hits harder than usual here. But it does look great and it adds drama because we've already been told Shawn's head isn't fully recovered and he could suffer a relapse, etc. So Owen hitting extra hard really hammers home the fact that he wants to end Shawn Michaels' career. A sharpshooter adds legitimate drama to the bout, and then the piece de la résistance, the enziguri, which put Shawn Michaels out of action in the first place. Owen connects beautifully with it, and it's wonderfully played out by Shawn. He collapses to the outside, and don't forget that they've slowly built this throughout the match, and it's a wonder to behold, honestly, the selling of it. But sadly and illogically, Owen goes to the outside, he gets Shawn back in, and he would have won if it had just left him to be counted out. What a balls up. But this is scripted entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. Shawn Michaels gets a second wind, kips up after a near fall and delivers his flying punch, slam, elbow drop from the top rope and knocks down Jim Cornette on the apron as fans begin to leave their seats as they sense the end is near. This is a lovely, lovely end sequence. Owen ducks the switch in music, Shawn ducks a second enziguri attempt, and then connects with Sweet Chin Music for the win. What a great little match this was, with expert storytelling, expert selling throughout, and credit has to go to both men. The downside, and there was a downside, because there's a downside to every match. There's no such thing as the perfect match. It doesn't exist. Fans never really believed that Shawn was in danger of losing, and that came across during the match. They were a little bit silent, almost just waiting for the inevitable in parts, and had they found a way to build up, the possibility of Owen Hart winning before In Your House, maybe it would have enhanced it even more. But that's just a small gripe, because it was a great In Your House match. After the match, Shawn gets a little girl in the ring and dances with her. I mean, anyone else would have been put on a register. And then he kissed her full on the lips. Fucking kissed an underage girl full on the lips, and one he didn't even know. But he's Shawn Michaels. Seeing the reaction to Shawn here, and then how the crowd would turn on him after he won the WWF Championship at WrestleMania was fascinating. It's like here, he was God. He was, God worshipped, everyone loved him. And then when he won the WWF Championship, he was the devil. People didn't want to see him, they booed him out of arenas. It was quite the turnaround. A video package aired for WrestleMania 12, which included all the good praise received by the press for WrestleMania 11. I mean, obviously, we must have watched a completely different WrestleMania. Now it's time to waste a few minutes while the production team put up the steel cage for the main event. So, first off, we're taken to Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler, so Vince can mark out for Shawn Michaels, and dear God, did he mark out. He went so hard into this that for a moment I thought he was going to take out his rich old cock and whack one out at the announce desk. He was that excited, God bless him. Then we're taken to the In Your House stage, where Todd Pettengill introduces the acting president of the World Wrestling Federation, Roddy Piper. For anyone who doesn't remember, Vader took out Gorilla Monsoon, who was the president on television at least at that time, on the January the 22nd, 1996 Raw, with several Vader bombs, and Roddy Piper was brought in to replace him. Piper gets a great reaction, but the magic of this being anything other than filler is killed off as the construction of the cage is visible in the background. You can see them dragging the cage walls down the aisle and just fixing them together with whatever they fixed them with. Roddy says that he cannot be bought, he doesn't think Michael Jackson is innocent, and he's not afraid of the boogeyman. And already this is a wonderful promo by one of the best, mic men of all time. I think Roddy Piper it's got to be in the top 10, if not top 5, talkers of all time. He announces Shawn Michaels as the number 1 contender to the WWF Championship, which we already knew, and then moves on to Yokozuna. He says that he doesn't feel sorry for him because he's a beast, but he's been dumb. And he then says he's there to cure Vader's malfunction and he's inbred, which is a fucking marvellous line. Piper announces Yokozuna versus Vader for WrestleMania 12, but that isn't the match we ended up getting. Instead we got, Yokozuna, Jake Roberts and Ahmed Johnson versus Vader, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. I don't remember that being very good at all. I could be wrong. Haven't seen WrestleMania for 6-7 years now. I must go back and watch that. Out comes Jim Cornette and Clarence Mason, but Jim Cornette covers Mason's mouth to stop him from speaking, and he and Jim go at it in a wonderful promo. Like two great talkers, two of the very best talkers going at it, and it's again a wonder to behold. On In Your House, who'd have thought it? Cornette says that he remembers the Roddy Piper who had no fear, and yet Vader came in and scared everybody, and the WWF tried to get rid of him. Then he says whatever happens to Yokozuna is on Roddy Piper's head. Piper then announces that if Yokozuna wins, he will get Jim Cornette all to himself. This is a ball. Anything else, and anyone else, this would have probably been 5 minutes of pure boredom and forgetting lines, etc. But the way Piper delivers his speech and the enthusiasm on his face, he's just pleased to be there. Very, very well done. If you go back and watch In Your House 8, then don't skip this, because this is one of the highlights of the card. The main event, steel cage match, WWF Championship, Bret Hart champion versus Diesel challenger. And oh, Jesus fucking Christ almighty. We've seen some trash In Your House over the last 6 episodes, but my God, this ranks up there with the very worst. The first thing I have to complain about, is that this match happens without any hype. There's no recap video of Survivor Series. There's no recap video of the Royal Rumble. There's absolutely zero, history on Bret Hart versus Diesel. And they go back nearly 2 years, let's not forget, fighting each other. All the way back to King of the Ring, 1994. It's shoddy. I know we got the opening video on both men, but that was basically it. We didn't get anything else on them or their rivalry. to show us why we should care about another Diesel WWF Championship match. The best thing about this, and it's not much, I admit, but you have to find a positive, in all that negative, was the very beginning. A shot of Diesel stood in the ring holding the top of the cage. That's how tall he was, or how short the classic blue steel cage was. Now this match, let's make no mistake about it, it was never about the in-ring, okay? This was all about setting up Diesel versus The Undertaker for WrestleMania 12, and it showed. It was being fair, it was everything you'd expect from a steel cage match, okay? Namely, plenty of foiled escape attempts. But in 1996, Kevin Nash didn't have the will or care to put on a classic that wasn't with a Scott Hall or a Shawn Michaels. And it was in him, because he showed it in the other matches against Bret in 94 and Survivor Series 95. But on the other hand, Bret just looked like he was going through the motions as well, although there was more effort in him, clearly, than there was in Kevin Nash. I don't even want to review. I feel sick at the thought of having to relive this. This went, I think, 20 minutes, 21 minutes. Might have been slightly less. Bret goes to the leg in a repetitive angle. Like every pay-per-view match Kevin Nash has had since SummerSlam 95, possibly before, at King of the Ring with Sid, had been about the opponent going to his leg, and it was now getting really, really dull. The cage, unfortunately, inhibits anything interesting happening, and it's just very slow, and the crowd are dead for the majority. Diesel fails to bother to sell the leg when he's mobile, so what a waste of time that is. But, he'd be gone in the spring, so what did he care? Diesel breaks the sharpshooter with a thumb to the eye and almost escapes the cage when The Undertaker pops up from below the ring and drags Diesel underneath. This allows Bret Hart to climb out for the victory. After the match, Diesel escapes the hole. He's stalked by The Undertaker, but manages to get away. And the sight of The Undertaker stood on the cage at the end is just a wonderful image to leave us on. This match, quite bad. And that's not me just shitting on WWF for a reaction. This was quite bad. Now, if you're a fan of leg holds and going to one limb for 20 minutes, etc., and failed escape attempts, then you'll probably like this very much. But it wasn't Bret Hart's best. It wasn't Kevin Nash's best. And it was just a main event for the sake of having a main event. The dark matches after the show. Ahmed Johnson defeated Isaac Yankem DDS. Yeah, I know. The Godwins defeated the Body Donners. And The Undertaker defeated Goldust via disqualification in a WWF Intercontinental Championship match. Wow. Can you imagine, okay? You've sat for an hour and 45 minutes through a rough in your house. Okay, I mean, it wasn't all rough, but parts of it were quite bad. And then, after a letdown of a main event, you have to sit through Ahmed Johnson and Isaac Yankem, the Godwins and the Body Donners, which wouldn't be the last time they fought. They'd fight at WrestleMania and In Your House 7, which is coming up next week. And then The Undertaker and Goldust. I mean, Jesus. And people paid for it. Anyway, this In Your House, it was fine, okay? It was unspectacular, very much a one-match show as they came out of the Royal Rumble and prepared for an immediate entry into WrestleMania 12. There was only one championship on the line here. The Tag Team Championships have been vacated. Intercontinental Championship was obviously on Goldust in the dark match, so the fact that there was only one championship on the line here sort of lessened the event and the occasion to an extent. But when compared to other In Your Houses, it stands up quite well. Razor Ramon versus the 1-2-3 Kid, Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Duke Drosy and Shawn Michaels and Owen Hart all ranged from good to great. And had the main event been equal or close to what Bret Hart and Diesel had pulled off at Survivor Series, this would have been the best In Your House so far. I am going to grade it a B. I think that's fair. 3 good matches. A choice main event. Because like I said, some people will very much like it. So it gets a B. It wasn't hideous. It was mostly good. I would go out of your way to check it out. But bear in mind what I said about the main event. The Piper stuff as well is just A+ for the Piper stuff. But overall, it's a B. And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to make these at least 45 minutes for you. I can ramble on forever if I need to or want to. Do let me know, if you're listening to this, if you prefer In Your House reviews with pictures, because this is a dilemma I've been having. Now I'm without Travis for a little bit. Let me know in the comments, or get hold of me on Twitter. Tell me whether you prefer pictures to look at when you're listening to these podcasts, because for me, it's people listen to them while they're doing stuff around the house, so they don't need anything to sit and look at. But if you prefer pictures, then starting with In Your House 8, we will start including some pictures from the actual event itself. I can get them from the WWE Network. That's not a problem, but like I said, I don't want to spend hours and hours putting in pictures that nobody's going to look at. So thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for having me in your house this week. As always, you can catch me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. You can catch Travis on Twitter at The Hibiki TMD. Unionsmack.bigcartel.com for all of your official merchandise from all of Travis's shows. And of course, Lulu.com, where you can purchase a copy of my book, The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley, and my second and maybe last book, NXT UK Year 1, coming next month. Once again, a big thank you. It is much, much appreciated. And I will see you all next week with In Your House 7. Good friends, better enemies. Cheerio, mate.